Hi guys, in my last video I talked about how to analyze the election night, how it's playing out, and how to analyze the electoral map. In this video I'm planning on uh, talking about the Democratic Party presidential primaries, and I highly recommend that you use Wikipedia to follow the primaries because, again, it's amazing how much information is here. So just type it in, the title in here as you see it, and you can always change Democratic to Republican. You'll get this page, um, and I'll show you say the title's the same. You could change the year and that'll give you a different year. But they fill in all this information and it basically creates like a timeline. So one of the most important things when you're following it is money raised. It's really interesting to see, you know, where candidates are positioning themselves, if they've been saving money, if they've been spending it. Uh, this will allow you to predict who's going to drop out. Um, you know, a lot of times a candidate will be losing and losing and losing, but it's just because they don't really think that it's a good time, it's a good area for them to fight in, and they're trying to just tread water until they get to their good areas. And so if you see that they have a lot of money saved up and they're not spending a lot, but they're losing a lot, it probably means that it's part of the plan to just give up those states. Especially money is a much bigger issue in the primaries. It's one of the biggest reasons candidates drop out. Um, so there's here is the money raised by the campaign, and then the money spent by the campaign, and then the cash on hand of the campaign, and then your outside groups like your super PACs and stuff like that. Here, as you can see, Clinton just destroyed all of the other candidates with outside group spending. But Bernie Sanders, raising from the average American, actually outraised Hillary Clinton with the big business. It shows your small donations really do matter. Because Sanders, although he lost, he outspent Hillary Clinton. Um, and actually, money tends to equal votes. I'm not even sure Bernie Sanders did lose with all of the rigging that happened and stuff. But, no way to know, I guess. So then you get to, the actual rules. Um, so you'll have your, I guess we'll start with delegates. You'll have your pledged delegates, and they're all given out proportionally on the Democratic side. So these pledged delegates are just what's given out for the state, mainly based on population. And then your unpledged delegates are your super delegates that are party officials and stuff. And basically, the magic number is 50% plus one. Um, and you want um, all your pledged delegates will vote first. And then if nobody gets to the magic number, super delegates will come in and vote. And then whoever has the most at the end of all the super delegates voting, they either all vote or none of them vote. And and that'll determine the winner. So then you have your type. Your caucus and your primary are the two types. So a caucus is where you walk in. There will be different sections for each candidate. Say we have Clinton, Sanders, and O'Malley, and there will be like a viability number a lot of times. So, and actually, I have this Iowa. This is the rules for the Democratic caucus of Iowa. So, as they'll say for each precinct, if it has one delegate, then whoever gets more of the votes, they get that delegate. But then if there's two delegates, each group needs 25% to be viable. So if the precinct has only three delegates, each group needs 1/6 of the participants to be viable. And if there's four or more, then you need 15% to be viable. So if someone doesn't get the viability that they need, say like O'Malley got only to 5% of the vote or something, then the candidates voters would then re-vote, and it takes a lot of time because the other candidates that are viable will try to convince them, and they'll give them like 15 minutes or a half hour to re-vote, and it's becomes this big long process. It takes hours most of the time, and that's why Sanders was winning a lot of these caucuses, because his campaign was so much more passionate than Clinton's, where they were willing to sit there for hours and hours. And then you had then you have the descriptor, whether it's open, closed, semi-open, or semi-closed, and that decides who can vote. So open is anybody can vote. Semi-open is any participant but that's not a Republican can vote. Semi-closed means only Democrats and the undeclared can vote, so third party and Republicans can't vote. Then you have enclosed, you have only registered Democrats, obviously. So that, that was a huge thing too, because Sanders was winning so many of the independents that if it's closed, he can't get any of those independents, and that is a huge part of his base. So um, that is honestly basically it for the Democratic primary. Um, every state's pretty much the same. So besides this, but like it's all proportional. So and that's why it's so hard for one candidate to get a big lead. Because you can't get these big blocks. You really have to blow another candidate out of the water and get, you know, 75-25. And that's how you start building up big leads. But um, anyways, if you look at the rest of this Wikipedia page, I'll just kind of show what it has to offer here. Um, you have endorsements it'll show you here. O'Malley has an endorsement apparently. What did he endorse himself? I don't even know how you get half. The, maybe that's actually kind of interesting. Um, but then you have all your maps here. Uh, different ways of analyzing what happened. So then there's a lot of footnotes here. Um, pay attention to the footnotes. They'll explain everything. So up here, 119, 120. If you can hover over them, those are going to be sources when they're numbers, pretty much, and then when they're letters, it's going to be a descriptor. So I like to pay attention to these footnotes. They'll tell you a lot about like here in Democrats abroad. Okay, there are 8 unpledged delegates from Democrats abroad that each cast half a vote at the national convention. So you have 8 unpledged delegates that count as 4 delegates, basically. So I guess that's how you get half of an endorsement, because maybe they were abroad. So anyways, I don't think there's too much else to say here. Yeah, Wikipedia is great at citing sources. Here's, you know, you can show, they'll give all this extra information about the candidates down here. Um, but anyways, I'll put a link to this as this article as well. So I will talk to you guys later, and I'm going to be doing a video in just a minute about the Republican Party primaries.